Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. Here we review TV shows. The year is 2020, and the name of the show is Babylon 5. See, I remembered to put our names in this time because I forgot to do it last time. Because we've got the new little intro with the fancy emulating the show intro. Anyway, this is going to be season 1, episode 9. It's called Deathwalker. So full spoilers for the episode as always. And yes,
I have a complaint. Every time someone says something Walker, I always want to add Texas Ranger to it.
This is going to be Soul Hunter all over again.
Deathwalker, Texas Death Ranger.
So I think this is a pretty interesting episode. There's a lot of parallels, obviously, with World War II and Nazis and things, because we find out about this war that happened. Because obviously, we've talked a lot about the Minbari War, which is about 10 years ago, right? We've talked about that numerous times. It's a big part of the show because Sinclair was in it, Delenn was in it. But we hear about this war that happened in the 2230s, which, you know, timeline-wise does put it kind of similar to what... Well, actually, it's not quite similar because it's only 2258. But you know, it's the war that happened when Sinclair's father, because he mentions that at one point that his father was in that war. So it's like the previous generation's war. This war with
the future is Greater's generation.
Yes, this is the Dilgar War. So we learn about the Dilgar, of course, in this episode. I
also have a problem with any words that begin with Dill. They're always going to sound silly.
So we got the
Dilgar.
Oh my
so
god!
Dumb.
So we have the Dilgar War. We have a character in this who's kind of one of the last of the Dilgar, and then we also find out about a portion of the Minbari that are called the Wind Swords, which are like the most militant, or the most like sort of the most toughest warrior version of the Minbari. Was kind of the impression that I think they gave. But the premise of the episode is that this woman, or a Dilgar woman, arrives on Babylon 5, and immediately Natoth just loses her shit and tries to kill her.
Just like, kicks the tar out of her.
Yeah. But by the way, this Dilgar woman, Deathwalker, is played by the same woman who played Ursa in Superman 1 and 2. She was the Kryptonian, the evil Kryptonian.
She's good at that. She's good at evil.
Yeah, she's
got that evil stepmother look.
And much like some of the other villains that we've had on this show before, very Shakespearean in her pronunciation, and you know, very, very theatrical actor, I suppose, is what I'll say.
She has a great face. It's just so structured.
But Natoth, you know, sees this as this Deathwalker, right? This big giant war criminal who's notorious. And I guess one of the things I liked about this episode is that once the word starts to spread around, you know, when Londo brings it up and others bring it up, it's like, no, this is someone who's so notorious that everyone does know about her. This is not just like, you know, one person who's a history buff knows who Deathwalker is. So
I mean, they kind of just don't address her attack anymore, though. Once they like find out who she was, they're like, well, she's on, Natoth is under house arrest, but then they don't like press charges at the end, even though she did assault somebody.
I don't think they care once they realize who it is. Like once it's proven who it is.
Isn't that a little odd though? No, I mean, she's still like just assaulted someone.
No, I think it's because like basically everyone wants to kill her, right? Once they actually confirm it, because no one believes it because she's too young, right? That's kind of one of the mysteries, is that, wait, you're saying this is this Deathwalker, but Deathwalker should be in her 60s or 70s at this point, or you know, whatever. And here she looks, you know, like she's in her late 30s or something. And it turns out that, you know, she's made this miracle serum. This was what she's been experimenting on as these wind swords, this section of Minbari who've been shielding her and giving her safe haven for the past several decades. She's basically developed this thing. It's kept her young, and a lot of the episode then revolves around the possible mass production of this serum, which will essentially cure disease and let people live for long times.
Like an immortality serum.
Yeah. She says effective immortality. I wonder if it's still kind of like an eventual degradation, but at the very least, you'll be living a long time. way more than
Yeah.
anyone ever has before.
And you can still get murdered.
And you can, yeah, she can't still get murdered, but she does heal very quickly. Because that's the other thing, is that she's in a coma for like a day, but then once she wakes up, she's completely healed from the attack because she's got like fast regeneration again, thanks to this miracle drug. But it becomes this like diplomatic dispute of like what to do with her and the battle for what she's got. That's I think that's the interesting part of the episode. Maybe I don't know if you agree with that. Like the.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I liked her a lot, actually. I liked the Deathwalker character. I was a little bit nervous that we were going to do a retread of the Soul Hunter one because I thought it was the same premise from the beginning of the episode. Like, did we already do this where somebody shows up and they're like, they're evil, I'm going to immediately try to kill them, and then they actually are evil and they're collecting souls. But this is a little bit different because it's like a war thing. Yeah,
it starts off feeling similar, but it very quickly, as soon as it's about these war crimes and the murder of essentially millions, it sounds like she straight up committed genocide. On top of experimenting on people, she straight up committed genocide. Some of it just for experimental reasons, some of it for other reasons. But she's completely one of the worst of the worst of the worst. And as we learn more about her, and we learn that, you know, even like the fact that Natot's like grandfather was kind of like this sole survivor who died later from the experiments is kind of notable because later on it sounds like the Narn themselves weren't as involved. The same with the Centauri. The Centauri weren't directly involved in the conflict either. You know, it was these other races. Like we always talk about how there's these other races on the station that aren't the main council, right? But there's still these delegates there for these other races. They call them the League in this episode or something like that. But basically, this other group of planets and races that have kind of got this unified kind of thing. And I mean, again, it doesn't go into it in too much detail, but it implies that the human, you know, the Earth defense kind of intervened to help, which is very World War II. It sounds like these alien races represent Europe, and then like the UK and the US are kind of the, like UK more specifically, the idea that, okay, Poland got invaded, right? That's it. The UK is involved in this now. We're coming to put a stop to this. That's essentially how World War II kind of really, you know, got going. So the parallels are like, you know, there's no accident here. They're thick and thin. But the episode's exploring this kind of harsh question: is there a reason why we shouldn't just immediately try her and or kill her? And it's because she has this miracle serum which they can maybe mass produce. Because as soon as Sinclair calls Earth Defense or Earth Gov, immediately the guy's like, no, you're sending her to Earth and she is to be here alive because we're going.
She has something we need.
Yeah, and because I like the scene with the debate where like it's Garibaldi, Ivanov, and Sinclair, and they're debating like whether or not she should follow this order, and you know Garibaldi's dead against it. He's like, no, she should die. What she did is unforgivable. It doesn't matter what she's got. But like Ivanov is like she's got a thing that could literally cure like millions of like sick people. This could like save so many lives. Like she could, and I think Sinclair points out in numbers like she might actually end up saving more lives than she's actually killed, despite the fact that she's killed so many with this. So it's an interesting debate, I think.
Sure. Like, is there... can somebody... I don't want to say be redeemed.
Oh, it's not redemption at all. It's very much not that, yeah.
But, like, does like the final product justify the means, you know? So if she had to kill all those people in order to get this serum, was it worth it? Clearly no, but now that she has it, like, do we look back on that and say, like, maybe there's a little bit of something, like we can allow her to at least give us something for what she's done to us.
Yeah, it's not that it was worth what she did, but that's already happened. So if we can get like a silver lining essentially out of it now, then you know something this powerful, sure. But I think the part of it about it not being a redemption is really important because I think this would have been this wouldn't be a bad choice to make, but this could have easily been a story of someone who'd done awful things who wanted redemption. I think it's actually more interesting in this case that she does not. Like, if anything, she's even worse than what we think at the start. By the time you get to her motivations at the end,
she just wants people to worship her.
Well, no, it's even worse than that. At the end of the episode, she says that, what I've not really revealed is that the key ingredient to this is that you have to actually steal life from others to like make it work. So I'm essentially going to turn everyone into like rabid dogs, so all the powerful are going to kill the poor so they can live longer. and all of that death is going to be in my. It's like she's even worse, and I kind of love Sinclair. Like, just like, get her out of my sight. Like, just really like, because there's a lot of things going on here. Like, Jakar wants this, right? The Narn wanted it, so he tries to like talk to her. I did think it was a bit weird that they set up this thing where she says, "Look, I'll consider your offer about giving it to you and like working with the Narn instead of the humans if you behead Natoth because she hurt me and bring me her head back." They never actually do anything with that, where you think maybe, is he considering it? Is he going to do something? It just kind of like moves past it and never addresses it again.
He is kind of deceptive to Natoth, though. Like he tells her like, "Oh, we're just going to get this one thing out of her, and then I'll help you fulfill your oath to your grandfather and kill her or something." But
that was before that scene, though. Do you think he was being disingenuous with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I thought so, because I thought, well, he doesn't really mean this. All that matters is that she's now distracted so that he can get a relationship going with Deathwalker, Texas Death Ranger.
No, that's fair. I do enjoy that he sort of plays a political move where he just kind of leaks it out to the station that she's here, so, and that stops them from like shipping her off, because all the other aliens show up and say, "No, we demand like a tribunal, we demand a hearing to talk about this." And Sinclair, and they say, "Look, you're going to have to kill us to get past." And Sinclair's like, "Okay, I'm clearly not going to do that. All right, take her back to her cell and we'll set something up."
There's also a small scene where Ivanova has to like distract some ships that have come through, and Sinclair like tells her she's done a really good job, and when he leaves, like, she has this like really genuine smile on her face that I thought that was a really sweet moment.
Yeah, the context of that scene is that basically once the news is out that this Deathwalker's here, all these other alien races, they'll have like warships showing up through the gate and be like, "Right, we're here to claim custody of Deathwalker." They all want her to themselves, and she basically stalls. It's kind of funny actually, where she says she's got them debating which one of them deserves her more, and that's like what's stalling for time before they start attacking. But no, I like that section as well. I think that the core ideas of this episode are really interesting and strong, and I don't know if the execution is necessarily always flawless with it, but I do kind of love like just how like absolutely despicably evil Deathwalker is. Like it's kind of like the Soul Hunter was kind of this weird like neutral thing where he believed he was doing the right thing, and he kind of presented his argument to, why his race see what they do as the right thing, and there's this sort of like ethical debate about it. Whereas this episode, everything that Natoth says about this woman and why she attacked her, by the end of the episode you're convinced that she was right.
Yeah,
that's all she does is prove.
She was definitely like evil incarnate. Like she's just definitely, she was written to be as evil as possible. And
I wonder there's also maybe a parallel here to like some Nazi scientists who were like given like amnesty because they came to the US to work, in certain industries and stuff like that, military or otherwise. I think there's definitely some parallels there that the episode's kind of poking at, which
right, is this ethical after what they've done, or should they be granted asylum if they ask for it, if they're a war criminal?
Yeah, and again, this is the interesting thing about this character, is that she doesn't even pretend to have any remorse or want anything other than, no, I'm proud of what I've done, and I will help kill tons more. So she's absolutely vile, and I think that makes it interesting. Obviously, we have to mention that at the end of the episode, as she's being escorted away, a Vorlon ship comes through the gate and just destroys the ship, and Kosh is just there off to the side, and everyone's like, wait,
Sinclair's like, why?
Yeah. And he's like, humans are not ready for immortality, and walks off.
Yeah, pretty boss move.
Yeah, but we got a subplot with him as well. We'll get to that in a minute. But I did kind of like the idea that everyone was watching this on the TV though. Like it was a big deal that it was like when something's like on TV because there's a big court case or something. Everyone's invested in like what happens. There's not a lot of Londo in this, but one of his few lines did make me laugh a little bit, because earlier on he comes up to Sinclair, like, is it true? Is the Deathwalker on the station? And he says something like, I don't believe everything you hear. And then later on, when they're having a hearing to discuss what to do about Deathwalker being here, he just walks in his ridiculous robe. He's like, I shouldn't believe what I hear, eh, Commander? That just made me laugh. Lando's just so delightful.
Yeah, I like the idea that that the Vorlon are like, they didn't kill her because, I mean, everybody wanted her dead, but the reason they killed her was just because we don't want humans to be more advanced. Or
yeah, it was a consequence of what would happen, not because of what she's done already. Yeah,
right.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of like interesting tidbits here. I love the mythology stuff. I love the idea of this. There's so much mythology in this show already. We're only 9 episodes in, and we now have like their equivalent to the Second World War. I don't know if we have an equivalent to them in Barry War. I guess at this time it would have been
Vietnam.
I guess it's. I mean, it's obviously older than 10 years at that point, but yeah, it's maybe the big thing that kind of sounds right. But I like that there's so many layers. You know, Delenn isn't there, so Lanier has to sort of like act as a sort of surrogate, and. He's really honest with Sinclair afterwards. He's like, because he's like, yeah, like it turns out our government knew about this, but it was too embarrassing and too shameful to admit that we were harboring this person for so long that you know we have to just sort of abstain and say no, that we're not going to like do this. So because Jakar does vote yes, but then he says there's a condition that she has to go to the Narn homeworld, and everyone hates it, and he's like, well, in that case, no, insist.
Either the Narn get the immortality serum or no one does.
Yes, that was his attitude. Which to be fair, is totally in character.
Yes. For
Jakar, I think, but quite a margin. Dear. So, I like the main plot in this one a lot. Obviously, Deathwalker herself's a bit theatrical at times, but I love the stuff it was poking at and the allegories.
I thought she did a good job just going for it, like
sure
being evil. Maybe she's typecast, but she's good at it.
Very good. It's why I never recognized her. Obviously, it was just when I saw an IMDb afterwards. I'm like, I recognize that name, and I clicked her. I was like, oh, it's her from Superman. That's why I know her name. So that's always neat. But yeah. So
does she turn into like a robot person at the end of Superman 2? No,
you're thinking of Superman 3.
Okay.
The bad guy in that turns into like the bad guy's henchman turns into like a robot lady. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like that seemed like haunted me when I was a child.
It's actually a pretty like. We don't have a lot of good examples of cyberpunk like horror, like techno horror, and obviously we didn't see Tetsuo the Iron Man until we did this show or this show, the Ace, yeah. I remember that being quite creepy as a kid too. You know what? That movie's not that good, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it because I watched that a lot as a youngin. Yeah,
it's been a long time for me as well. Same with 2. I sort of just have seen 1 and 4 a lot.
Nuclear Man, oh yeah, everyone's favorite. Nuclear. That's because Gene Hackman says it that way. You're right.
Yeah, Nuclear Man.
He doesn't know how to say nuclear properly. So yeah, that's the main plot. The main plot's really solid in this one. It's one of those things where it's on the nose, of course, but like everything that's poking at it's really good. It's still teasing this the Vorlon's attitude towards human race, and the B plot will get to that as well, I suppose. But I thought that was neat actually how the B plot was Kosh related, but he never actually involved himself in the main plot until that last scene. It wasn't until that last scene where he just steps in and says, "No, this isn't happening." And puts a stop to it.
The Kosh stuff was pretty ridiculous until the end. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that.
It felt pretty separate.
Sense.
It is intriguing though that he's essentially testing Talia. That's because he goes to Talia and says, "We've got a deal."
I don't think he's testing her. I think he just used her and got something out of her against her will.
Sure, but what do you think he got out of her though?
Her biggest fear.
Just that? You think that's all he got, and that's something he's going to use against her at some point?
I mean, I think that's what the point of the scene was, because of the vicar that he's there with.
The vicar, yes, the VCR, yes. Okay, so let me explain some context. Let me explain some context for this before I argue what I think it is. So he presents the idea that he's got like a negotiation. We've seen this before. The telepaths are used to sort of scan in negotiations to make sure both parties are on the up and up. And instead, she's really confused because this guy who's wearing this funny like double pointed hat, who later on turns out to have like a robot sort of like thing and like an exposed brain. It's kind of, I mean, I need to let a cat out. You explain the phrases they're using that are weird.
Yeah, so they're sort of talking in riddles, but they're just like sentence fragments. Like they don't really make any sense in the context of things. Like she thinks she's there to help mediate a negotiation, and instead they're just saying fragments of sentences at each other.
And it's like split into 2 days. And the first day, they basically just, like, she doesn't really feel any pain the first day. It's just kind of like she's just annoyed and confused at why they're saying things like, the hot dog, shaves its beard twice a day. Or, it's just weird sentences like that make no sense. And they're just all random. They don't follow on from one another. But then, later she starts having these flashes of this, like, dark moment. And, we get an explanation at the end what this actually is her, from her life, what it's referring back to. But I think like halfway through the plot, I get the point that this is more about how Talia is like reacting than it is about anything else. And
mostly bored.
Mostly bored, yeah. But once she's actually screamed in pain and she has these flashes of this like figure in shadows, like stabbing her with a broken bottle, proper nightmarish stuff. Basically, it's okay, that's it, job done. And the VCR guy takes out this little data crystal and gives it to Kosh. That's the job done. And he's got some recording from her. Because later on, when she goes to Garibaldi and Sinclair and explains this, what's happened to her, she's like, okay, so a few years ago, I was at this job and I had to scan a serial killer. And it was like the scariest thing I'd ever done. I'd never been in like someone's head that was like dangerous like that. And all the thoughts were violent. And when she tells him about this guy with the VCR man, Gar was
named after ancient Earth technology, the VCR, which lasted a long time. So.
Which is funny to us because obviously, by the time Babylon 5 finished, it was really only around for another couple of years, and then the DVD had completely replaced it. But that's all right. But no, so this idea that they'd be used to record just about anything, and one of the examples they give is brainwaves. So it doesn't take a whole leap to... So, okay, so they're prodding at her. All these phrases are like sort of like subliminal key words or something to make her think about certain things, or...
Yeah, I think it's more like they're just saying random things until one of those things triggers a memory. Because they said, like, best not to reflect on something, and then she's in a room full of mirrors. Well, that's what triggers her memory.
I was thinking it was less just they were, saying random things until something triggered something, and it was more like the Blade Runner test, where there's like a set line of like questions because it's designed to like eventually make someone react, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe there's something more to it, but
yeah.
Once they said like best not to reflect on something, and then that's what triggers her down that.
Well, yeah, I think that was the moment, because it was like focused on reflections, and then she was in a hall of mirrors. I got the impression just from that moment that this was about scanning her as opposed to her being there to scan like one of them. This was about them reading what the idea that she was reflecting back out. The actual specific.
I don't know why you attempt to use that word.
I don't know.
Like, this is not the first time.
Specificity. Right. The actual specificity of the violent like memory. I don't know if that's specifically what they wanted. Like, is that moment? Because I don't know if because you were saying that you think, okay, they wanted her darkest fear or her worst memory or something to that effect. I don't know if it's so much that, or if it's more like that's just what we're seeing as the extreme end, but they actually got a lot of information about humans from her, or a lot of information about telepaths from her, or something like that. It seems like Kosh wanted something from her, and I don't know if it's specifically to do with her or more to do with just telepaths in general, humans in general, because we know he's been studying humans, so that's been something they've established, because he was watching all the war footage and he was doing things earlier.
Yeah, I mean, why would he target Talia specifically?
Because she's there.
Like, there's nothing really that I think he's gonna hold on to that memory to blackmail her one day, or to what?
Yeah, well, that's why I don't think it's specific that it's her or that it's that memory.
Okay.
That it's more of a general thing that he just wanted a reading of a telepath, or I could be wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe in like 5 episodes time there's going to be a scene where he's like, okay, now Talia, you're going to do what I say, or
yeah, maybe.
But I mean, it's not.
I have no idea what the Vosh, what their capabilities are.
But if you think about it now, though, like, how could they blackmail her anyway? Because like she's openly talking about this to Sinclair and Garibaldi anyway. It's not like she's scared to talk about it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what his intentions are other than to get this.
I would maybe argue
what you could use it for.
Given that she reacts the way she does, I would say it's less about blackmail and more about torture, potentially, if it's going to be like used against her, because it seems like he can like make her feel those feelings and pain again.
Or like a way to coerce her into doing something.
Yeah. Curious. But at the very least, we know he's gaining intel and trying to study humans, and he's very opinionated about what humans should and shouldn't be able to do yet.
Well, maybe it was this experience where he said they're not ready for immortality.
Yeah, possibly. And maybe the idea of like him like essentially being able to like through Talia's memory of getting into a serial killer's mind, being able to read a serial killer is him saying, "All right, no, you know what? No, these humans can't have this because this wasn't a long time ago. This was a few years ago. They can't have this shit."
Yeah, the Vorlon. I said the wrong thing before, but
What did you say?
I mixed Vorlon and Ambassador Kosh together.
Okay. What did you say? The Koshlons?
The Kosh. But yeah, I don't know what the Vorlons are capable of at all. Like,
it's a mystery.
Do they have magic?
Yeah.
Are they able to telepath as well? Well, I guess that's how they communicate.
We don't know what they look like yet. We know there's a bright light under the suit when they move because we've seen like glimpses of that.
They're a flashlight behind a curtain.
but they're intentionally very mysterious. So
yeah,
it's interesting. I don't feel bad about messing up the name. There was back when I tried to review this on my own, and before we restarted, there was an episode where I swapped Centauri and Minbari the entire time, and the comments really let me know that I had swapped the names back and forth. So I don't think I've done that yet.
We're still learning.
Yeah. In my defense, Centauri and Minbari have a very similar sound to them, so
yeah, they're very close.
I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about either one, but clearly that's what it is. Actually, that's the other thing. The Deathwalker knows about Sinclair's hole in his mind. She brings it up to him when they're talking. She's heard that from the.
She's been hanging around with these super militant Minbari, and they talk about him a lot apparently.
Yeah. That was. I mean, it's not like new information, but it gives you the idea of like just how many Minbari
and they're really
know.
building up to something important about Sinclair, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I mean, did you like the episode? I never really asked that, but
yeah, I liked
it. Yeah. Some good character beats for some of them, and I think the Deathwalker stuff was a really interesting examination of this type of character and the debate around her.
I don't think we've had any like real bad episodes. Like maybe The Gathering was a bit of it was all right, but I mean it had to set up a lot of things.
It was a little rocky in places, but don't worry, the boxing episode's coming. That is the one episode that I remember being outright bad. Is the boxing episode?
Oh yeah, I remember that too. I remember the costumes looking very much like just bring whatever you have at home that doesn't have any logos on it.
What's so funny about it is that it's right after like the best episode so far. That's what I remember. I remember the best episode so far that really got me excited for the rest of the show, followed immediately by that boxing episode. It was like, oh my god, why did you put this here? I was so hyped after the last one. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that soon. But this has been episode 9. So we'll be back with episode 10, because that's how numbers work, typically.
Fun. I learned something today.
The only little bit that I just to go back to the ships showing up for Deathwalker, one of the little details I liked about that is that they've kind of, I don't remember what each like race's ship looks like, and there's a lot of races we've barely spent time on, so they can keep showing us new ones and I'll never recognize them. But I did like that after the first ship showed up and then they said the gates opening again, and you see like 3 different ships coming through that all look very different. I like the simply just from the visual I got, okay, this is 3 different races that all want the same. So that was a simple bit of visual storytelling. But
news travels pretty fast in the galaxy.
I appreciate, yeah. So, no, that was a good episode. All right, so that is Deathwalker. So we'll see you next time for whatever's next. So, you can of course hit the like button on YouTube. Liking is super important, and it is the easy and free way to show your support and keep all the content coming. By letting us know you like the content, obviously, but also because it helps YouTube share it out to more people. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Of course, you can support us on Patreon. Can the Tower?
Yep, you sure can. If you like our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of shows we do, including the Ace, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is our science fiction movie review show. And if you donate $5 per month, you get these Babylon 5 reviews one whole week early. So please go check that out and see what you think. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. Catch us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that'll pretty much do it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Just don't give away the home world.